Hi, I'm Brandon Salisbury. I'm a filmmaker and screenwriter, and I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew. He is doing an amazing job showing people with disabilities can accomplish anything, and I'm so happy to be on this show.
Today on the Keith Andrew Network, it is episode season 9, episode 832. Today we sit down with former Marine Brandon Salisbury. It was a great episode. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network. Hit that bell icon. Follow is brought to you by EPGfilm, Home on the X Zone, and Life of a Fighter. Make sure to hit that icon. And as I always tell you, I'll catch you later. People want to know, what is the Keith Andrew Network? The whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. To prove to them and get them out to something. So hashtag break the labels. So that being said, the first question I want to say is thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So the first subject I want to talk to you about is you mentioned you were a former U.S. Marine and you served in the Army. So the question I want to ask you, it's going to sound like an oxymoron on my part, but did someone in your family serve in the Army? Is that why you want to follow in the footsteps?
Yes, my middle brother served 4 years in the Army and was actually deployed with Desert Storm. And I had a uncle that served in the Marine Corps during Vietnam.
No, I can relate because my grandfather served in World War II and his father served in World War I.
Oh, wow.
But my dad broke the transition. He didn't really want to serve in the Army, so he became a school teacher.
Oh, okay.
But it would have been pretty interesting. My grandfather, World War I, my grandfather, World War II, and my dad being in Vietnam, but he had a choice to go to Vietnam or work as a school teacher in a very dangerous neighborhood. But at the time, they would say it's kind of bad in Vietnam because it was that bad. So it's kind of like either go over there or go over here. So he went was the lesser of the two evils.
Well, I think everyone has their own callings, and there's nothing wrong with choosing to become a school teacher as a different way of alternatively serving the community.
No, I agree. So the first one I want to ask you is, who influenced you to join the Marines? How many years have you served, and do you have any funny stories?
Well, my brother obviously would be the direct influence to decide to join the military. I joined back in 2003 before I even got out of high school. I signed up, and it was a fellow student that referred me to a Marine Corps recruiter. The reason why I joined the Marine Corps was honestly because they were the first ones to call. I was at that transition period where I was getting ready to graduate high school. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to college at the time. I was kind of eyeing the New York Film Academy, but then decided to join the military instead. I served 6 years in the Marine Corps from 2003 to 2009. I got out of the military for 10 months, and then because of the recession, I needed an extra paycheck. So I decided to join the Army National Guard because I wanted to do something that was more local. So I joined the Pennsylvania Army National Guard and served from 2010 to 2016.
No, absolutely. So the other question I want to ask you is, what, if you had to pick between the two, which one had more of a bigger impact and left an impression on your life?
Ooh, I feel like I'm gonna offend like one side or the other. But I would say that the Marine Corps influenced me the most because that's where I went into first. So they were the ones that instilled a lot of responsibility and maturity in me, because at the time I'm just an 18-year-old kid. So going through that, I went on, I did 2 tours in Iraq during that time. So that was a huge eye opener. I got to go to a couple places throughout the world. So really opened my eyes to different cultures, and I got to experience a lot of things. So in that regards, I have to say the Marine Corps, just because they were the ones to instill all that responsibility in me.
Have you ever pulled any funny pranks on the people?
Yeah, I've done some really funny pranks in the military. Usually my humor shifts like very wildly. Either I'm kind of like sarcastically belligerent with just making remarks about how terrible things can be, or I'll shift to the point where it's overly comical, almost Looney Tunes-esque. And a lot of the people that I served with, they always seem to find me really hilarious and kind of keep the morale up. But as I got older and got more into leadership, going up through the ranks, I kind of died down on that. But in the lower enlisted ranks, I was well known for making a lot of practical jokes.
Well, you can say that about, Chris Evans as Captain America. When he first joined the Fantastic Four, he was funny, he was sarcastic, he was kind of like more cartoony. As he evolved into Captain America, he was like more serious. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's great to be serious, but you need to just loosen up and enjoy life. You can't walk around with a stick up your ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that.
For me, I always love messing with people. My dad said, one of these days, keep them pulling pranks or mess with someone. Someone's gonna end up decking you. I used to work over at Walmart, and one thing I like about public bathrooms is the acoustics, like in echoes.
Mhm.
So what I hate is when people walk into the bathroom and are on their cell phone. It's like, hey, buddy, you're breaking my concentration here. But the other one was I would purposely know they were on the phone. One thing about a public bathroom people may or may not know is when you flush the toilet, the more times you flush it, the louder it gets. So I would purposely repeatedly flush the toilet like 5, 10 times just to drown the person out. And the time I come out, and I'm like, is he still waiting for me? Did he stop talking, or did he get the hint?
That's pretty good.
And sometimes I'm an ass, but I try to have fun with everyone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I usually try and have fun too, especially being in the military. You got to have that those moments to really look on the brighter side of things.
one of the jokes was, and I always made a joke, and unfortunately it happened to me, so I guess the joke's on me. They didn't put toilet paper in the bathroom stall. So I tried to go into the stall next to me, and the guy's like, oh, it's occupied. And I said, I really hope this doesn't turn out how I want it to be. But I hate to bother you in there, but I'm out of toilet paper. Can you lend me some? So he was nice enough to give me some toilet paper. But the joke, I think it's George Collin and Robin Williams. If you really want to have fun in a stall, get like a Hershey bar, squishing your hands and reach forward.
Yeah, I've seen that joke more than once.
So the next question I want to add to is disabilities, because that's what the show is mostly based about. Is the first question is, have you, besides me, obviously, have you worked with people with learning disabilities? And for people who want to follow in your footsteps, because you served in the Army, you are also a director and a former owner. So those are two subjects I do want to talk about in a couple of minutes. But the first one is disabilities. Have you ever had the honor and privilege to work with someone who had any type of learning or mental disabilities?
I haven't worked necessarily with anyone with learning disabilities per se, but I have been friends with uh, my best friend's cousin was born with disabilities, wheelchair bound, and he's actually overcome a lot himself. He actually owns his own business and got a full education and does really well for himself. But I've had the honor of knowing him for most of my life, and he's been a big inspiration. I wouldn't say that I myself suffer from a disability per se, but I have struggled with PTSD, which is obviously mental, but it can be very crushing where it can kind of paralyze you from not being able to complete tasks. So that was something that coming back from the war that I had to overcome myself. But I mean, it pales in comparison to the kinds of disabilities that everyday people are affected with.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, before we take before we take a commercial break, I do want to talk to you about one thing. The term PSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, you can call it shell shock, or there's so many different terms to it. As you were in the Marines, have you, going back to what you're saying is, have you personally experienced it? And for people who are going through it, what is some of your advice you would tell our viewers and our fans to say, this is what you need to do?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had some major cases of PTSD, and the underlying conditions of PTSD can lead to other issues. Like in my case, it did lead to a long bout of alcoholism. And that was, and it just starts snowballing from there. So I'm already suffering from depression and anxiety. And then now now you get into an addiction with alcohol, and now you got more than one battle that you have to fight. How I was able to conquer it is just through, my wonderful wife really helped me over the years to get through that. And the easiest thing that I can say is, one, definitely seek help if you know that you're affected by it. There seems to be this, forget how they describe it, but PTSD is like the invisible wound. It's something that you don't see on the inside. You don't see it in that person every day, but it's something that they're constantly struggling with. So the first thing that someone suffering from PTSD needs to do is they need to seek help. You need to find a friend, you need to find a therapist, a loved one, anyone that you can open up to and actually talk about it, because bad news doesn't get better with age. I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that I've been given as a leader is, you need to get the help that you need. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is to start identifying the indicators for when I'm going to have an episode, because when you're in a depression, you don't always know how to deal with it. So when I started having a bout of depression, it's gotten to the point where it's an easy indicator, and I have my own methods to deal with it so that I'm not losing focus, because I found over the years it was really difficult for me to continue being creative, because I've wanted to be a director. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to write screenplays, and I would find that I would start projects, but then I would get through a bout of depression, and you always have that voice in the back of your head, all the negative thoughts, and it would just kind of crush me. And then I would lose any interest in doing anything. And now I'm actually able to function pretty well. I think in the last year, I'm now on my fourth screenplay. So I've written more in the last year and accomplished more in the last year than what I have most of my adult life creatively. So I've been really proud of that. So that would be the best advice I could give, is just find people to talk to about this, and start learning more about yourself so that you can find those early indicators and be able to find techniques that work for you, that you can get through any of the additional issues that may develop from PTSD.
No, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you about social media when we come back. Now we're back from the commercial break. What's the last 12 minutes? Our sponsors will be, well, not really sponsors. People I like to promote will be on the bottom of the screen. So I'll both stick with the conversation we're having beforehand. You know, you talked about post-traumatic stress disorder, and you know, there's a lot of things people like to joke about the red flags. You know, if I'm Dragon Ball Z, they did a family parody where they're like, Gohan, go ahead and kill Cell. This is your time. And he responds to saying, no, I'm not done ripping the wings off him. And Goku turns to Piccolo's like, is that a red flag? And Piccolo answers back, Crimson. But, you know, but there's certain things that you talk about. Yeah, yes, it's funny, but we can make jokes. But if someone's staring at water for a long period of time, that should be like a red flag right there. But it gives you that stability of saying, we can help you get through it. You know, drinking and smoking, yes, that may numb the pain, but that it's not an antidote. It's not going to help you. And I bet you, bet for a fact that being a Marine, you have seen some of your best friends, comrades, go through it, and they probably looked for you for some support.
Yeah, I have. I've spoken with a few that I've served with before. I know a few years back after my last deployment, there was a tragic incident that had happened, and one of the soldiers I knew quite well was really going through some PTSD from it. So, you know, I don't want to give too many details because I don't want to put them on the spot, but they did come to me and ask me, just because for them, that was the first time they had seen anything like that. And because I had already been on deployments, I was able to kind of counsel him, give him advice. And it was really nice for the both of us because with both of us being military, we actually started working out together and spending a lot of time. And I really got to know him outside of when we were on deployment. So that was a good thing for both of us. We were able to talk, and we still remain good friends to this day. So I was really happy to help him, and he's doing amazingly well now. So, you know, just having that's why I said before, just having that person that you can go to, that you can trust, is just a really big step to helping get through it.
No, absolutely. Now, a lot of people are probably going to make fun of me for asking this question, but you know, in professional wrestling, they take human growth hormones and steroids, and there's a lot of wrestlers that had nervous breakdowns from concussions.
Mm-hmm.
In the Army, I know they may or may not drug test, but not to mention names, do you think drug use is being used in the Army as well? Like because you're on the battlefield, you want to be, you know, invincible and take down the enemy. So do you think some people would take an extra advantage?
It's not as widespread as what you think it would be. I know that the Marine Corps itself really started cracking down on drug use back in the 80s. So they began doing a lot of mandatory drug tests. In fact, we have, even in the National Guard, it was at least a yearly drug test, and you could always be put on the list to receive additional drug tests, because they always did I think it's a 10 or 20% that would be picked randomly. Though, to be honest, I think some of it wasn't randomly, where if they suspected someone, you just automatically got on that list. I did know of some people that did end up doing drugs while they were in the service. They eventually got caught and they were kicked out of the service. Some of it was in connection to PTSD as well. There was a really good Marine that I admired, that after we got back from deployment, we went on our leave, and then by the time I saw him again, first time he showed up, we had a drug test, he popped, and he was out within the month. So I was really disappointed in that he had gotten kicked out, because he was a really great leader. But I understand, everyone understands when you join up, you understand the standards that the Marine Corps asks for, and the consequences if you don't follow those standards.
I agree with you 100%. Now I'm going to pass the show over to you, but the last thing I want to ask you is social media, because you also are a filmmaker and director. So the first question I want to ask you, and usually I say this for the end, but I'm trying to change up the format. When I first approached you to be a guest in my talk show, what made you say yes? How do you feel now? And what do you recommend to other people? And how can they follow you on social media?
Well, I have, I mostly follow Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. I am on Facebook, but most of my work and interactions with people, I do a lot on Twitter. So it's at Mr. Midnight Owl. That just comes from an old handle that I've had for a few years. But yeah, mostly I'm on Twitter, and I engage with people. So I'm always willing to chat with people, especially those that want to start out a career in film, or want to try the independent route. Like, they don't want to go through Hollywood to make movies. They want to try and make something within their community. I'm more than happy to help. I've been studying film for many years. It's been a passion of mine, and I had to put it on hold while I was in the military. And then once I got out, I've slowly been working my way back to it. I lost a lot of time with that because I got out in 2016. And at that time, I kind of felt like I don't think I'd ever be able to get into the business. So it was only last year during the pandemic and kind of going through a depression, people were talking to me and they realized just how passionate I was about film. And they said, look, there's nothing going on. Everything's shut down. Why don't you try and pursue it finally? And I just kind of realized that, my age doesn't matter, because people like Quentin Tarantino, he started later. Ang Lee, who's a accomplished director, he started late. Christopher Nolan, who's one of the big in-demand directors, he didn't even go to film school. He just made a short film and got picked up from there. So really, it just comes down to having that passion and desire to make films. So if there's people out there that are looking for that they have that passion and they want to really dig deep and learn how film and movies are made, how you actually write a script and have that desire for knowledge, definitely reach out to me and I can point you in the right direction. Usually I have been tweeting lately about, certain books on filmmaking and writing that have inspired me and really helped improve my technique. So definitely give me a follow, because, if you want that knowledge, if you just want someone to just kind of cut out all the bull crap and just kind of get straight to the point, read this book, do that, I'll probably be able to help you. I'm always happy to answer questions.
No, I agree. And what about, say, for an example, people who want to be like a professional talk show host or be a better podcast host? Would that fall under the same category?
I mean, I mostly deal with movies, but I would say that at the very least, no matter what you do, typically someone writes it. Even yourself, even though we're doing this interview live, you had to sit there, figure out your format, you had to figure out your questions. And a lot of the times, myself included, when I come on shows, I try and think about the kinds of questions I might be asked. I think this is probably the first time I've been on a show where I didn't kind of know what the content would be ahead of time, because I have done interviews before, and it's definitely more natural with this method where you're getting a more frank series of answers from me. But no matter what, even if you're a talk show host, if you're a podcast host, if you're a YouTuber, you definitely still would want to see some advice around how to write, how to talk, the best methods to engage your audience, to engage the platform that you're working on. So even, getting books on how to write and learn structure, because everything is structured from, this show to someone's YouTube video to a feature film in Hollywood. Everything has a structure to it. And sometimes even a subconscious expectation from the audience on how they want to see information presented. So definitely look up the information, seek out advice from other people that have that knowledge, and you'll find that your abilities are only going to grow from there.
I agree with you 100%. Wrapping up the show, but I will say this one thing. A lot of people always ask me, can you give me questions? Can you give me an example? I'm like, I got asked so many times over almost 8 years. I made a video. I'm like, here's a video. Let's watch the video. I explain everything. I asked my top 10 questions, life growing up, high school, college, study nerd, party animal. Okay, reacts to funny, easy ones. Then we go to the hard-hitting ones, social media, people with disabilities. Maybe sometimes I ask about some controversial thing like life after death, but it's always what I expect from my guests is to get a real connection and to get honest feedback. Because if I give you a script and it's like, oh, well, number 10, he said on this list, and then it's premeditated, like with wrestling, they read a script, they reenact it. But if you want to make it real and make it more entertaining, then maybe you have to think outside the box. But I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. So I want to say thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.